Okay, hi. I am finally okay after the finale. Keyword is okay. And I have my thoughts together. So this is basically just going to be season 1 thoughts. It's not a rating. It's not a review. Well, it might be a little bit of a review. It's just a bunch of shit from my brain put into a video now. That's probably what I'm going to title it. So a few disclaimers before I start. 1, I'm not an expert. I don't claim to be. I just watch things. And so this is just my opinions on different aspects of the season. I don't claim to be right. This is just thoughts. I just want to talk about my experience with season 1. That's it. What an aggressive side part we have going on today. Okay, and 2, my brain tends to just naturally work like that, and I'm gonna try my best to make it just work more, like maybe more just like this a little bit. I'm gonna try my best. I don't really want to do a lot of editing on this, so I have to stay on track. I just have to try and stay on track. I did write notes in order to kind of like hopefully help with that. There's 6 words on this paper. It's a guide. It's just a guide. Like, just it's to talk about these points. These are the points I wanted to talk about. It's just a guide. This is gonna be bad. We're gonna get off track already real quick. So I realized today when I was making my coffee that my cream was expired, but I had icing left over from the cupcakes. And so I thought Mrs. Doubtfire did that with tea, I think. And it looked good. And so I just put a little bit of icing in there. Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay, season 1. Real quick, you all owe season 1 an apology. That's right, all of you. All I heard from the beginning of time was like, season 1's not that great. You just have to get past season 1. Season 1 doesn't show what the show is capable of. Don't judge it based on season 1. You all talk like season 1 like it's some torn, ripped, used and dirty thrift shop prom dress. Okay, and in reality, it's... Who's a designer? I can't think of one single designer right now. Gucci? Is Gucci a designer? Does Gucci make prom dresses? This analogy's bad. I should have went with something different, but it's the first one that came to my mind. Regardless, for the sake of my analogy, season 1 is a Gucci gown, okay? And so I'm gonna need you all to never talk about my best friend like that again. Okay, so let's start with characters. Characters seems like a good spot to start. So I really enjoy most of the characters that we were introduced to in season 1. I think that Buffy as a character just fills my heart with joy. I really wish I would have watched this growing up because I don't know that we saw a lot of that. I still don't think we see enough women in lead roles like that. So I love Buffy. I feel very protective of her. Like, I swear, if anyone said anything bad about Buffy, like, I'd kill them. I also really liked the chemistry between the 3, like Buffy, Xander, and Willow, because I believe that they're friends that quick. I usually am a lot tougher on building of relationships because if I don't feel like the relationships are there, it's hard for me to get into the show. And I remember in the pilot thinking that it was going to take a few episodes for like them to get to know each other, for them to find out that Buffy's the Slayer, and they didn't go that route. And the more I think about that, the more I like it. But I don't think it would have worked so well to just have them be friends if the chemistry wasn't there between the 3 of them. I genuinely believed that they were friends for multiple reasons. I think obviously they're casted well, and the cast has good chemistry, but also I think the background of them, I guess, like I believe that Willow and Xander have been best friends for a long time. I believe that just with their interactions. And I believe that they would be the duo to accept Buffy. And I didn't watch the movie, so I don't know if any of this is like answered there, but I'm assuming she probably has struggled to find friends in her past schools because she like burns things down and stuff. So it just felt like the right duo to welcome Buffy in. And so I didn't question it. So although we definitely got bits and pieces of them bonding further as a friendship, I didn't necessarily need it as much as I needed those bonding moments with Buffy and Giles. Because not that they don't have chemistry, but the scenario is just a little different. I wouldn't have believed them being super close right off the beginning if we didn't get those bonding moments with them. So I think those were really important, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching Buffy and Giles navigate their relationship. Like trying to figure out how those two as a duo can fit into like these new like kind of like these roles that have been placed on them together. Obviously, she was a Slayer before meeting Giles, but now she has to work with Giles, and so navigating that new relationship, it was interesting to see them do that and how they bonded. I really, really liked that. Oh, I do have some critiques of the characters, though. Obviously, I want to make sure to preface this with it's season 1. I'm not mad at any of this. I clearly loved season 1, but there were a couple times where I was like, what? Most specifically, Buffy. Let's start with Buffy, because I don't think Buffy is meant to be ditzy. I think what they're trying to show with her character is that she's not necessarily book smart. That she doesn't do her homework. She's got no fucking time. Okay? She's busy. She doesn't maybe care about school a lot. She knows it's important, but she's not like up at night just doing homework. But in my opinion, there's a big difference between not liking school, not being book smart, and being ditzy. And I feel like a couple of times they cross the line of making her seem ditzy. Maybe being ditzy is a part of her character that they're trying to show, but it doesn't feel like it. The biggest example I can think of this is during Teacher's Pet, because Buffy didn't do her homework, and so Willow's trying to like give her the answers. And so she like pets Xander, and Buffy gets it in her mind and says, touch. And then she smells Xander, and Buffy's like, BO? What? Stop. And again, I know it's season 1, it's fine. And I know why they did it, because it's funny. You get a comedic line in there, and it gets the point across that she didn't do her homework. Therefore, it pushes the plot forward. Great. But in my mind, I just don't feel like, in the nicest way possible, good writing shouldn't have to steer away from character traits in order to get their punchlines, in order to push their plot forward. And I feel like in that, I remember even saying like, what the fuck? Like, it just wasn't believable for Buffy to say that for me. Again, I'm not mad at it. It's season 1. Fine. But if something like a line like that were to happen in like season 2, maybe I'd still kind of laugh it off. But anything past that, I'd be like, what? Like a good example of them showing her not being book smart is when she was in the library with that guy. What was his name? Garth? No, I don't think it was Garth. I don't know. The guy, the never kill a boy on the first date guy. This is why notes come in handy. I should have wrote this down. That guy. You all will know who I'm talking about. And he's like talking about books, and then she gets the author's name wrong, and then like Giles corrects her, and that's funny. And in no way does that make her look ditzy. In no way did that veer off of what I would assume her character to do. So I just thought that was a little weird. And I've had kind of these like character moments with almost all of them in season 1. Xander, I specifically remember having a reaction where Xander said something and I was like, that felt weird to hear Xander say. And it just, I'm like, what? But Xander's a whole other story. We'll get to him. I'm already off track. It's fine. Hopefully you can stay with me. I just gotta let my mind do its work. Another another thing with this is with Cornflower. I think I'm confused about her a little bit, and I know we're going to get to know her more, but I'm just specifically talking about season 1. She confused me in a few aspects. One, she is clearly bitchy and very quick-witted and sassy. Love that about her. But she, again, doesn't feel to me to be ditzy, and I think they cross that line with her again sometimes. Like, she's smart. She speaks up in class. She takes part in class. She knows when tests are coming. She's clearly prepared for them. I feel like she's genuinely smart. I think she cares about school. And then, like, she's so quick-witted and with her dialogue that you can't, in my brain, I can't possibly, it doesn't work in my brain to have the same person who says, who gave you permission to exist, be the same person who doesn't know what a delete button is on a computer. That felt so ditzy. I don't think she's a ditz. Like Regina George, Mean Girls, not a ditz, just a pure bitch. We love her for it. The ditz was the other girl who can feel the rain with her boobs. So I don't know. I just pick a lane with her, and I hope they don't go the ditzy lane. I really don't. We don't need it. I like smart, quick-witted. Give me that character all day. Yeah, so I felt that a little bit with her too. Again, not super worried about it. And she's not even a main character, so even more not worried about it. Xander. Fuck. Xander. Okay, we're going to talk about Xander. He's so frustrating. And I think for a couple of reasons in my mind. Again, just my opinion. But I feel like it's one of two things. One, they're purposefully writing him as this sporadic 16-year-old boy who's struggling to figure himself out, and along the way is just really annoying. And if that's the case, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Because let's hold everyone to the same standard, okay? Buffy and Willow are also 16. You know, I hate the, like, 16-year-old boys will be boys thing. I hate it. I understand this is, like, 1996. Still hate it. Still hate it. So if that's the case, I hate it. The other option could potentially be that they just really didn't know what they fully want with Xander's character, and so they're, like, trying these different things out, and I also hate that. Because he's a main 3. I need him to be figured out. And he's not all bad. I mean, I've laughed a lot at Xander's jokes. Like, what? So why can't he be the funny one? Why can't he be the funny one? The one where when things get tense, you know, he comes in, he lightens the mood. Like a Chandler. Why can't he be like a Chandler? You know, let him have his spot of being like the funny one, and then get rid of all the other shit. I don't know. I hope they figure him out as a character. I know him and I have a complicated relationship. We really do. We're up and down. You know, I love his fashion. Sometimes he annoys the shit out of me. But yeah, so I don't know. I hope somehow he finds his space because season 1 Xander is really annoying and frustrating and I don't really understand it. Yeah, it's still not good. Giles. Giles and I had a rocky start. I thought he had a personal space issue, which seems to have gone away. And I just didn't trust him. But he burned a guy alive, and I came around quite quickly. Um, I also like him. Sometimes I think that they're unsure if they want him to be sassy or caring, but then I'm like, both of those can coexist together. In my mind, both of those can coexist. It's not the same as like quick-witted and ditzy not being able to coexist in my mind, because in reality, being Giles, you probably would get really frustrated sometimes and sassy. And then you probably also do just genuinely care about that group of 3 and want to protect them and everything. So both of those can coexist in my mind. No issues there. I really like Giles. And yeah, thank God. Because hopefully we can trust him. I fully trust him now. But if they throw that wrench at me, Jesus. Okay, and then Willow. I don't know if this is true, known, whatever, but this is how I feel. I feel like they went into season 1 fully knowing who they wanted Willow to be. Like they had her figured out. I've thought so much about any time, and maybe I'd find one on a rewatch, but nothing stuck out to me where I got those feelings of like, Willow wouldn't say that or Willow wouldn't do that. I just feel like they had her figured out. The other characters, maybe they had to like navigate some things, push some things to make things go forward. But with Willow, they have her down. It's so good from everything. Like the way she talks, the way she walks, everything she says, like her clothes. Everything is perfect about Willow. She's a very, very, in my opinion, for season 1, the most well-rounded character. And a specific moment that makes me feel this even more about Willow, a moment that I think about so much, is when Xander was a hyena and Willow was in the library. And I genuinely thought she was going to let him out of that cage. Because that's her weakness right there. It was right in front of her. Her heart, she's caring, but also Xander is her weakness. She loves him. And I was so sure that scenario was going to go that way. And if it would have made sense to me. If she would have let him out of that cage, I would have been like, yep, that makes sense for Willow to do. The way it actually went, I was like, yep, that makes sense for Willow to do. And that's so incredible. There's like moments like that just make me go, damn. Like they really nailed it. Because most of the time when scenarios come up, you can kind of figure out which way a character is going to go in order to stay in a character. And when you design a scenario like that where it could go either way and both ways make sense for a character, I just think that's so good. I really do. I think that's so good. I think about that moment so much. I was like, wow, that was really great. Willow's so great. I really do feel like they just had her fully figured out from the beginning. She's absolutely my favorite character. And probably because of elements of that she feels the most established in my mind, but also she's just fucking incredible. Are you kidding? She's adorable. I love her so much. I also really enjoy the contrast of Willow and Buffy, because having 2 young women in that main group, fucking great, incredible. But I also like how different they are. Like Buffy doesn't give a shit about school. She's got street smarts, you know what I mean? She's got other shit going on. She's also just kind of punchy. She's kind of just more outgoing. And Willow's a lot more reserved, soft-spoken. I think that contrast between those two is one of my highlights for sure. I'm getting into highlights. Am I still on characters? I don't know what fucking point I'm on anymore. Anyway, I like the contrast between the two of them. Yeah, I think that's really cool. Characters. Yeah. Is that all on characters? I think my biggest thing was like that, the ditziness. I feel like they kind of fall back on that sometimes, just to like get a laugh. And they don't need to. They really don't need to. They write very funny jokes that don't require going off of character. Like a perfect example of that is the master in the finale. Like when he, after the earthquake, when he looks over and is like, what do you think, a 5? I laughed so hard at that. And I did kind of say like, oh my God, I'm laughing at the master. That felt weird. But it's different to me because that line didn't like hold any weight, I guess is a good way to put it. If you would have cut that line out, the episode still would have been fine. You would have just missed out on a laugh, really. But everything would have moved forward. That line had nothing to do with anything specifically. It was just a good joke. Whereas the line with Buffy and the teacher, the BO line, if we don't get that line, if we pull that line out of the episode, the plot is frozen. The teacher doesn't realize she didn't do her homework. We're at a standstill. We needed that line to push plot forward. So I don't like when that happens. The one-off lines that are just like random funny jokes thrown in that don't really, hold any weight in any way except for to give you a laugh, those are fine with me. I let them slide. It's the other ones that I get caught up on sometimes where I'm like, Again, though, I just want to be super clear. It's season 1. I'm not mad about it. I still enjoy the episode. I still laugh at the jokes. I'm just kind of like, hopefully we don't see too much more of that, like, moving forward. Okay, characters. I'm purposefully skipping you-know-who, because I'm going to talk about him later. So what's next on my big list of notes here? High points. Yeah, I already covered some of those. My high points, the relationship growth between Buffy and Giles was a really, really fun thing for me to watch happen. Huge high point for me. Buffy's fighting scenes, I'm going to throw that in there. They're a high point for me. I love them. The energy I get so pumped when she starts doing her fight scenes. Love them. Willow, just as a character in general, high point for me. And I do love the one-liners. I also really love when they call themselves out. Those are high points for me. Like, I can't remember what episode it was at the end where all 3 of them are kind of sitting there and they talk about how they're just like never going to have a normal life. I think the call out with the principal. I can't get over that line. I think that's probably one of my favorite lines in the entire season is, but he was eaten. You're in my world now. What? I fucking love it so much. So I like the call-outs of themselves, of all of the things we make fun of them for, the amount of murders in this town. I do like when they just like call attention to that. But part of me wishes we would like explore that a little more. And maybe we will in future episodes, because some of those call-outs are really interesting themes that we could have like dove deeper into. Like Xander remembers being a hyena. Like that end when he says that he lost his memory and then Giles does the call out and is like, interesting. No, I never didn't find that. Like he remembers that happening. That's in his memory. I wish it just wasn't kind of gone. Because imagine exploring that. How fun that could have been. Also, when I kind of said that, like, everyone in that school needs therapy. And then principal, what's his name? Principal, it's a musical instrument. It's not a trumpet, because I apparently don't know what that is. Flute. Principal Flutie. Anyway, when he was like, everyone, you need to go to therapy, I loved that call out because, yes. But also, it would have been kind of cool to dive into that. Like how, like, just like an episode on Buffy being in therapy. I, it's a fine line to say it could have been funny. But do you know what I mean? Like, some of these themes are quite interesting. So I like that they call them out. But I also am like, damn, like, we could, like, that could be fun to explore. And we just kind of don't. Which is fine. Some of the low points for me, some of the villains, and not because they weren't interesting. Above everything, this season had interesting villains. Look, I'm a villains gal, okay? You all know this about me. So I'm very particular about my villains. And I do feel like some of them just fell a little short. And honestly, it's just really tough to establish villains when you have, like, week to week villains. They're different all the time, with the exception of a few, like the Master that we saw throughout. For the most part, they were pretty different every week. And so it's hard to establish them when they're coming and going so quickly. But I'm going to talk more about villain stuff in what I want to see for coming seasons. So I'm not going to get off track. I'm going to stay on track. Okay. My favorite episode was, I want you all to guess. Say it at the screen, everyone, all at once. Say at the screen what you think my favorite episode was. I'll do the Jeopardy theme. Na 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 na. Did you guess it? Okay, it's the pack. It's the pack. I think about that episode so much. They really did that. I still get so much joy in the fact that they wrote that. Someone wrote that. And it got approved and aired. And that's so incredible to me. Because, I mean, I don't know what was going on on TV, like, during that time, but I'm going to wager to guess not that. I really liked it. I liked it for, like, just the absolute absurdity of it. I love that. When ideas come about where I couldn't personally imagine ever thinking of them, I love that. I love that. I thought it was super interesting that Xander became a hyena. He was the bad guy, and he's our guy. Loved that. Obviously, it gave me that big Willow moment, which was a huge plus in my book. I loved the close-up shots of his eyes, his weird little smirk. I loved all the little elements of it. The scene where they're, like, walking across the schoolyard at, like, lunch or whatever it was, just the music, like, the music, like, came on. They were living their Lion King fantasies. I loved that. The one-liner about the hot dog being too cooked. They ate a pig, and then they ate the principal. I can't get over that episode. I love it. It's 100% my favorite. Also, just the journey I had on that episode actually deserves a little shout out, because I was sure that this was Xander's redeeming episode. I was certain of it at the beginning. I was like, yeah, get those fucking bullies. And then he became a fucking hyena. Wow. Yeah. I also learned a lot about hyenas, which is great. Education is great. My least favorite episode, you all know. the doll, the clowns. Hard no. The fact that they were back to back, hard no. I just can't. But like overall, actually the puppet episode, no, they're both good. Like they're good episodes. Overall. I just hate them. But actually, nightmares, I also think about a lot. Not just because like I personally have nightmares from it, but there was a moment in that episode that didn't click for me until later because I was so scared watching it. I didn't have time to digest really what was going on. But something I've thought about a lot since is near the end, they're in the cemetery and Buffy's buried alive. And at that point, we're at the point in the episode where they've kind of figured out what's going on. So they're aware that this is everyone's nightmares coming true. Like we're past that point, like the realization point, and that it's not real, and that, like we can figure out how to change this. We're working on figuring out how to stop everything. Buffy's buried alive. Giles and all of them run over to like the cemetery or whatever it is. And Giles sees Buffy's name on the tombstone and it breaks him. It breaks, like the way he reacted to that was a pretty big moment. And I'm kind of sad I didn't digest it later. But I think about it all the time now and how important it was because it broke him. He literally said, I failed you. And he knows that it's not reality fully. It's not real. He could have easily been like, that's my worst nightmare. We gotta fix this shit, right? But it affected him so much that he literally was like, oh my God, I failed you. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. Like, he was so sad, even though he was aware. Like, so that really says something. So, nightmares, not my favorite episode. That moment, though, is a high for me. One of the higher points of the series that I think about a lot more now that I'm less scared. Okay, let's talk about Angel before we get into villain stuff. Because I know as soon as we get into villain stuff, I'm just going to rant. So let's get Angel out of the way here. Yeah, it's still not good. Okay. So I'm sure you all know and understand this about me, but I always watch things through two perspectives. One is like for the writing, appreciating the stories, appreciating, why they do certain things. And then the second perspective is me just inserting myself into that world and pretending like I'm a part of it. And then I can be mad at who I want to be mad at. I can like who I want to like. I get a lot of comments sometimes when I comment on characters. I'll be like, oh, I don't like that character. And people will be like, that's the point. I know. I'm just telling you. So yeah. So when it comes to Angel, I really like it. Like, I really do like it. And the more I sit with it, the more I love it. Because, oh my God, are you kidding me? It's genius. I love it. The very first ever love interest that we're introduced to for Buffy is quite literally her enemy. It's fucking perfect. It's perfect. And now, upon reflection, it's kind of almost a duh moment for me. How did I not see that coming? It's so perfect. On the other end, the end over here where I'm part of the world, fucking hate it. He lied to me, and therefore, he just has work to do to get me back in his good books. But I do like that's how it is. I do like that he's a vampire. I just also fucking hate that he's a vampire. Do you know what I mean? It's also so interesting that he like has a soul, because damn, that sucks. But it is a necessary element. If he didn't have a soul, there'd be no question in my mind that she should have slayed him right then and there. But he had to be a little different. He had to be a little different. Otherwise, yeah, we would have just probably killed him. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe not. But that's how I feel about it. I think that was a very good element that they added, to show that he has a soul. He has feelings. He just doesn't have any oxygen, so he's not useful when it comes to like saving people's lives, you know? But Angel is probably like personally one of my favorite parts of this, because I just don't know what's gonna happen. I like that. I really do. I like that. I'm excited for them to try and redeem him. I think they're already trying. They're not doing a great job. I need more. but yeah, that was such a nice surprise. Not a nice surprise. I don't think I maybe shouldn't fucking call it that. But yeah, I really do like how that I do like that he's a vampire. I do. But I also hate him. Still there. Okay. Okay. What do I want to see? So, I really keep going back for this, huh? It's just here. Okay, so another little note on something that I really, really like about season 1 is the, I guess, area of imagination that it made me tap into. It was out there. Like, it was fucking out there. We had a lot going on. My understanding of villains and creatures prior to watching Buffy was quite limited. And it just expanded it. And I really love that they explored all of that. As much as like I am going to talk about the monster of the week and what I don't like about that, I also really do like that when you do that, you have all of these interesting villains that you can do. Because I wasn't expecting it. And some of them I didn't like, but some of them I was like, this is kind of cool. But just like when I watch Buffy, my imagination goes wild. Like, so wild. And so naturally, I lay awake at night thinking, what's next? You know? So I took it upon myself. I made a list. I made a list of villains that I hope we see sometime throughout the series. Now, these are just suggestions, okay? But this is the area of my brain that the imagination has tapped into when it comes to creatures now, okay? And now I have big expectations, so they better not let me down, okay? So, starting off strong, we've got earthworms. You all know that about me. I've mentioned it before. Giant earthworms would be sick. Worms are cool. They move really coolly, and like just that on a large scale. Yep. Inject it right into my veins, please. Also, dragons. Again, you all know this about me. I just don't feel like we're ever going to get dragons, but I'm not letting go of hope. It's there. The hope is strong. Dragons would be fantastic. And aliens as well. Would love some aliens, but we gotta be careful here. We gotta toe the line, okay? Because hear me out. E.T. Scary. Green aliens, really cute and cool and fun and fresh. E.T. No. E.T. is like a horror movie for me, okay? But then I'm thinking, look, we need something aquamarine. We need an aquamarine villain. Okay, I'm talking sharks. I'm talking dolphins. I'm talking whales. Octopus? An octopus would be incredible. Eels? Eels? Electric eels? Are you kidding? I don't think they live near the water. Do they live near the water? I don't care at this point, actually. Figure it out. Make it work, okay? Give me eels. Would love that. Just not fish. Fish are boring. We don't need fish villains. What else do I got here? Evil house cat. Some kind of plant. Like a tree. Maybe even a lemon tree. Because then you have the addedness of the lemon, which could be useful when creating a villain. Something electrical. Not just eel, but like a lamp or a light bulb. Something electrical. Also an instrument. What about an evil instrument? Maybe like a drum. An evil drum. A possessed radio. Like an older radio, like something like maybe from the 70s. That would be scary. Killer vents. Like ventilation. Maybe they like suck you in or something. And last but not least, bumblebees with swords. Stingers are scary, but like what if they had extra shit on them, you know? Bumblebees with swords. Those are just some suggestions, but I would love to see them because now they have a lot to live up to. Okay, they gave me a praying mantis woman thing and hyenas that actually ate people. So I just feel like this isn't too much to ask. Okay, let's end off with what I want to see, and we're going to talk about villains. And so, fucking fair warning, I'll probably go off. I could talk about villains forever, and I know I'm going to end up ranting because I have so many thoughts about villains, and so just try and stay with me, okay? But I'm going to start with what I want to see not regarding villains. What I would love to see, as much fun as I genuinely did have with season 1 and the standalone episodes, I kind of hope we steer away from them a little bit more. I would like to have more continuous storylines. We got some in season 1, right? The Master being one, Angel, like we got some. But for the most part, each individual episode was like a standalone episode. So I tend to like more continuous episodes. I don't think that you can go for too long in a series doing standalone episodes. So I assume that we'll maybe get more continuous storylines. I really hope so, but I'm also assuming probably. I think with more like continuous storylines, we can have longer lasting conflicts, right? Like I kind of mentioned this in my Q&A, but I'll mention it again here. Like I kind of want things to just not be okay at the end of every episode because it makes you need to watch the next episode more. If you end on a conflict, you're like, what? You know, if someone's in a fight or like something happens, you're like, I need to know what happens next. So I, again, didn't mind that at the end of every episode, it was like happy-go-lucky kind of stuff. But every episode just had the same structure. And yeah, I'd like to break away from that, I guess, is the point. I would like to break away from that. Give me more continuous storylines. Give me longer lasting conflict more often. And one of the big reasons for that is because another thing that I would really love to see is better established villains. Because I'm just a villain bitch. I just need them. I'm just picky when it comes to villains. That's it. But at the end of the day, I'm also just not very picky. They really threw some unexpected ones my way, and I enjoyed them. I genuinely did. So when I talk like about this part, I am going to say fully that I liked the villains for what they were in season 1. I'm just talking about, I hope we don't keep going that route because I would like to see more established villains. And what I mean by that is I feel like a lot of the times in season 1, specifically with vampires, but no, with all of them, they did a lot of telling and not showing. which again, because of the way the episodes are structured, you kind of have to do that. You have to just like tell the audience information and then move on, because also it's a show. You don't have a lot of time. It's not a movie. You can't really establish shit. But I would like to be shown things more, because it just builds things up inside. Give some examples, because you're falling over your words. Okay, so for example, let's talk Batman real quick, okay? Batman, when we see Joker doing his destruction, okay? In whatever movie, in whatever comic, it's typically the same. We, as the audience, see Joker. We see him. I'm going to sound so psychotic. Please keep in mind, I'm a good person, I think. But we see Joker out there. He's killing people. He's smashing people's faces into pencils. He's like, we see that. So by time Joker and Batman have that interaction, that final interaction where everything is going to, where the battle starts, basically, we know what Joker's capable of. We as the audience have witnessed it ourselves. We saw it. So it becomes so much scarier that way, because we've witnessed it. We know exactly what Batman's getting into. And I think it makes it so much more enjoyable, but B, like, what's the word? Satisfying is the word. It's satisfying. It's more satisfying. It holds the hero in a higher regard, right? For what they just took out. It's incredible. It makes the win feel bigger. It just makes everything feel a little bit more higher stakes, you know? Because even though 99% of the time we know Batman's gonna win, right? Like, nobody goes into a final fight of a movie thinking, oh, what if the villain actually wins? That's not the point of it. The point of it is just to make you fully believe that there's a chance. And I just don't think we got that a lot in season 1. So yeah, you know Batman's gonna win, but because of how much, like, what we've seen of Joker, it's just more believable to think that he might not, because Joker did some shit, you know? It's also kind of cool just to have inside insight to the villains, to know what they're capable of, because you can have some really cool fight scenes that way. Like, if you know a villain is typically gonna do something, it's cool to see how the hero prepares for that. I enjoy those moments a lot. Again, even though you know the hero's gonna win, it's still it's just more enjoyable for me, in my opinion. Stay on track. No, I'm going to veer off track just for half a second before we get back to the villain stuff. On the note of the hero always wins. I'm anxious to say this out loud. I know, no, I don't know. I feel like Buffy is going to lose at some point or mess up. Season 1 was very much, we're going to defeat whatever comes our way. I'm shaking to say that. Like, why? It's a fucking, like, I'm fine, but I don't like saying this stuff out loud. I feel like Buffy has to fail eventually. I don't know necessarily if it's going to be necessary in season 2, but there is going to probably, in my opinion, come a time when she's not perfect and she fails, and I'm going to cry as I'm saying this. It's going to be bad, but it has to happen. She can't be perfect all the time. And so sometimes the hero doesn't always win. And in TV shows, definitely I like that, because they can't be perfect, and it really is interesting to see how that affects them. It creates loss. I'm going to cry saying this, so I'm going to get off this topic because I don't fucking care. You know what I mean. I feel like eventually, and then not necessarily right away, but I do feel like eventually one day Buffy and team are going to fail, and that's going to be heart-wrenching. But we're not going there. We're going back to my thoughts on villains. So I hope we get more established villains, and I hope they do a lot more showing than telling. Like, for example, the Edward Scissorhands guy, like, he didn't really end up being like the main guy, because the bug was the one, whatever, with him. I remember that the way they established him was, there was like the newspaper article or whatever it was that was like, ooh, like people are getting chopped up. We saw Angel's arm that he tried to hide from us so well. And another element of that was like they created that committee, the little group of them that were like out to hunt him. So that's how they kind of established in our mind, like, oh, and I remember Angel saying like, he's big, he's strong. But again, that's telling me. I wish we could have got a few scenes of him chopping people up. I swear to God, I'm not morbid, but like, show me him doing that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just like, show me, don't tell me. And we did get elements of this. Like, actually, the big guy that I really, really liked, that Giles burned alive. He's not alive. He was a vampire, but he burned him. I think that specifically the reason I got so excited when he turned out to be a vampire was because he was pre-established in my mind a little bit. I saw him on the bus. I saw him interacting with that mom and that little boy, being fucking terrifying, and interacting with like the bus driver. So I was already, I saw it. And then when he came back as a vampire, it was instant in my mind where I was like, he's already established as that fucking terrifying guy. Now he's a vampire. He's got army boots. And the very first, like when he broke the glass, that was like, in my mind, that was perfectly done villain for that episode, because again, they showed me, they didn't just tell me that, you know. And of course there was elements of telling, but specifically show me, and I got to witness him being like that. We also like, because, oh god, I'm gonna go see, I knew I was gonna rant. Villains in my mind don't always have to be physically big. My favorite villain of all time is Scarecrow, and he's not big. He's not that big. Like, he's just the normal dude, but he's so interesting. I won't ramble about Scarecrow and why I love him so much. So I don't always think villains need to be physically big, but you have to give me a reason to be scared of them. So there's a group of pre-fears that I'll instantly be scared of. I'm talking clowns, dolls, that kind of shit. Ghosts, I already have a fear of them. So when they show up, I'm instantly scared. Okay? But the other stuff I'm talking about, I need an element to be scared of them. So if you're not going to show me what they're capable of, then you need to make them physically big. That's just how I feel. Either show me why they're scary, or make them physically big. And you can do that. You can do that kind of stuff with like camera work and stuff. The one vampire guy in the finale, they did that with, right? We get the scene of Buffy like flying onto her back and like the impact that had. And then when they introduced us to that vampire guy, they did the shot that's up from the ground, which always just makes people look bigger. And it was like slowed down. It was like slow motion. The music always comes in, right? I think he was like growling a little bit. And I think I even said like, ooh, he's big, because that's what they were trying to establish with doing all of that. So I don't mind that if they're not the main villain. He wasn't the main villain. He was just like, they were showing us, oh, she's beating the shit out of this really big guy right now. It's getting bad. So I don't mind that. So yeah, you can do things to make villains feel scary. I'm thinking of when the 3 were coming through and they come out of the dark and the music changes. Like, you can do elements to that, but it can only work so much. I want to know what they're capable of. And going back to the point that they don't always have to be big, physically. We also saw some really cool villain shit with Darla. I liked Darla a lot because right from the beginning they showed me what she was capable of with the scene in the school. I think that there are typically small sized things that can make fantastic villains, women being one of them and children being another, because they already have an upper hand, so they don't need to be physically big. And yeah, Darla's a perfect example of that. We saw what she was capable of. We saw her strength being that she's a good looking woman, basically, when she's in human form. And then the kid thing, I got so excited about that because I love that. Kids are the scariest villains because they aren't big. They're not intimidating physically, but they have so much power over you. And I actually am, as a side note, a little sad with how the kid stuff ended up with Colin, because I really wish Buffy didn't know, because that's what I wanted. When he got introduced, I was like, a kid. You see a kid, you're going to it. It doesn't matter. So the fact that she knew it was a kid before she saw him kind of sucked for me a little bit. I was like, damn, I wish they could have just not done that. I know they had to like prophecy stuff, but I just kind of felt in my mind, you know? Yeah. Okay. So that's my rant on villains. I hope we get some more established villains. I want to know what they're capable of. I want a lot more showing, a lot less telling. And I hope that they don't just kill them off every episode, because that was another cool thing about Darla. I mean, she didn't last very long, but when she came back, you felt like you knew her. You knew what she was going to do. And, you know, at the end of every episode, they were kind of like, the villain's gone. With a few exceptions that I will remember to come back to. But I kind of like recurring villains too. Like, you know, Batman never kills Joker. He goes to jail sometimes, then he escapes. Like, it's cool when you have established villains. I should stop fucking ranting about this because I literally could forever. I just like them because villains, bad guys, they add the element to the show, which makes it exciting, at least from my perspective. Of course, there's tons of other cool stuff that I like, relationship building, conflict, like all that shit, but I'm just talking about villains. I just hope we get a little bit more. Okay? Okay. So, final thoughts. Wrapping it all up. Probably not, but trying to wrap it all up. What the hell happened to the kid? I think about that so much. Where did he go? Where was he off to? He just decided to bring Buffy where she needed, and then he peaced out. Where did he go? Another thing. The bones. I can't stop thinking about them. I convinced myself for a brief second that the reason they did that zoom out that way with the bones showing it was just to show the impact. You know, show the impact. This is a big moment. The master was defeated. This is the end of him. So I was like, I convinced myself it was dramatic effect. But I can't stop thinking about it, which means I just feel like we should have buried them or burned them. I think we should have burned them. Fully get rid of them, cremate them. Let's go back to the funeral home and toss him in. I could be wrong. It's just a gut feeling that something about that shot hangs in my brain. And yeah, again, maybe it was just a goodbye to the master, but I can't let it go yet. And then another thing that I think about a lot is the teacher's pet thing. There was eggs at the end of that episode under the table, and then it cracked open. Right? I'm certain that happened. I should have went back and fact checked, but I'm sure that happened. So what the fuck? Like, are we going to get more of that? I'd be down. I'd be down. I really would. But I just hope it's not like forgotten about, because they really planted that in us. So if we don't get them, I think I'd be more upset than if we do. And current thoughts on Xander and Willow. I think I'm over it. But I'm not. But she likes him. I think a big reason, because clearly I don't like Xander, and I love Willow. So the fact that I I don't really know how I currently feel about it. Wanted for sure them to be together was just solely because she wanted it. That's it. I think she deserves better. And I hope that if they do get together, it doesn't become the, like, smart woman has to teach dumb man how to be a good person. I just hope that doesn't happen. But that's the only reason I want it, is because she did. She wants to be with him. And I think she deserves to have whatever she wants. Whatever she wants, give it to her. But currently, because of the Buffy stuff that happened last episode, I think I'm over it. I think I'm over them two being together. Maybe she'll get with Angel. That would be insane. No, she wouldn't. She wouldn't, but that would be insane. This show has me thinking anything can happen. Like, my mind, like, literally, sometimes I'm not even logically thinking about things like that. Willow and Angel? No, it's not happening, but it gives me pause. When I think of something so out of the box, I'm like, that's so dumb. But then I stop and I'm like, is it? Because this show's fucking taking me on a ride, okay? Okay, did I get all of my 6 points done? I think I did. I think I probably ranted about villains for a little too much, but whatever. Okay, so overall, I loved season 1. I genuinely did. I loved it. I thought it was funny. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was pretty well done for the time, and I don't know what the budget was, but I assume it wasn't very high. So I think it was well done for what they had. I think it had a few areas that caused me to go, And again, when that happens in season 1, I don't get too mad about it. It's if we're talking in season 4 about the same shit, then I'll be like, come on. I think it was well written. I think they went for it. Like, again, I don't really remember what was going on around the time that this aired, but I have to say I feel like this show went for it. It pushed the boundaries in all of the best ways. And anything that does that, I just love. I have so much respect for it. Yeah, I hope different things happen. I couldn't imagine this being how the show is always. I think it's going to obviously have to grow, just have a natural growth. But I loved season 1. I genuinely did. So season 1 will take all of your apologies now. And season 2 has a lot to live up to. Like, y'all been hyping it. Like, hyping it. So it better live up. Sometimes I get a little worried because I'm like, I loved season 1 so much and it doesn't seem like a lot of people did. So does that mean I'm not going to like season 2? Because maybe I'm just opposites. Okay, anyway, so yes, season 1, loved it. Huge fan. Okay, so that's about everything in terms of things that matter. So if you're just here for, very specifically Buffy related things, this is where you drop off the video. Thank you for coming. See you season 2, episode 1. But I do have one more thing that I lie in bed at night thinking about. And because I have no one else to talk to about this, you all get to hear it. Okay, so try to stay with me here. Xander's favorite food is chicken wings. okay? Because they're messy. You eat them with your hands, but they're good and they're satiating. Like you're full. Like it's a full meal. It's not a snack. Okay, wings are no joke. They're not just a snack. They're a full meal. Specifically saucy wings. Not hot though. I don't think he's a spicy guy. I think he would lean more toward a more mild sauce. I don't think he's going dry. If he did, it would be something like lemon pepper, something quite mild. But I think it's more of he's a saucy guy. So I'm thinking somewhere in like the honey garlic realm, or maybe barbecue, but he eats them in like that one bite thing. You know how people do that and there's like nothing left on the bone? That's how he eats them. And he never eats the celery that comes with it. It's always left over in the container after. And then he always has like the little stains in the corner of his mouth, that are there for like hours afterward, just like a little sauce stain. And he's just like talking to you with like sauce on the side of his face. Buffy's favorite food, I go back and forth on this one a little bit. It's something that's still kind of not good for you, that you eat with your hands, but a lot less messy. Okay, I'm thinking it could be nachos, potentially, but I lean a bit more toward just a big burger and fries. Like a full burger, loaded, everything on it. I'm talking onions, lettuce, all the sauces. No pickles, though. She's not a pickles girl. Pickles off. Fries on the side. I do think she dips her fries probably just in ketchup, but I wonder if every now and then she goes for maybe a little mayo, maybe even a little sweet and sour. Sometimes people do that, but mostly I think ketchup. Willow's favorite food? We're sticking on the train of something that's like not necessarily considered good for you, but that you eat with a fork. I'm Canadian, so naturally I'm going, okay, she's a poutine gal. But it could be like a chili cheese fries could fit in there very well. But also, huge chocolate chip cookie girl. I'm talking like homemade, fresh chocolate chip cookies, none of that store-made shit. Loves them. She's big on the chocolate chip cookies. Cordelia, I know what you're thinking. Something to do with corn. No, not in this instance. It's pasta. Hear me out. Pasta is still kind of not great for you, but it has a better reputation than like burgers and wings and stuff. It's never really villainized or looked at as a bad food. It's a bad food, but it's like a splash more elegant. You know what I mean? So she's definitely a pasta girl. I'm thinking like a penne. And if she goes out to eat, sometimes she might even get like a side of garlic toast. No cheese though. No chance there's cheese on that garlic toast for her. No. Giles, huge crockpot guy. Big fan of the crockpot or slow cooker, depending on where you're from, what you call it. I call it a crockpot. Loves it, overuses it. Almost every meal he has is done via crockpot, but it's perfect for him because in the morning he can just throw whatever in. It's nothing fancy though. Like I'm not talking soups or curries. We're talking chicken, like a roast chicken with potatoes, carrots, maybe even just like a roast, like roast beef. And he would like make gravy out of it and everything, but it's perfect. He throws it in the morning. He goes to school. He's got his after school activities, and then he comes home, meal's ready for him. He doesn't have a lot of time to cook, and he's the adult, so he has to cook for himself. So he definitely overuses his crock pot, but also big jelly bean fan. Loves jelly beans. Takes them out of their package though. Very specifically, he buys the bags of jelly beans, takes them out, puts it in a nice glass jar so that he can always have a good eye on his jelly bean supply and like where he's at. Angel, obviously, really only consumes one thing, right? Blood. But specifically, he has a high preference for AB blood. Even more specifically, AB negative. But he will do AB positive if he has to. Just because It's the rarest of the blood types, therefore I have to assume it has a higher market value. It'd be a little bit more expensive to get. And he has expensive taste. Okay, he has multiple leather jackets. He's a little bit bougie. But also, he keeps his blood chilled. He's a chilled blood guy, lasts longer that way, probably tastes better that way. But also, I feel like sometimes he takes some, you put it in like a little popsicle mold, toss it in the freezer every now and then when you want like a little treat. You just kind of take it out. It's like a little blood popsicle, just when he's feeling like he doesn't want to just drink it. He just wants like a little treat. Aren't you so glad you're here? The amount of nights I've spent thinking about all of that is just, wow. Yeah. So there. That's my full entire final thoughts. We made it. We made it through. I don't know how I did go off the rails sometimes, but we made it through, and that's what's important. Honestly, though, I just want to say a really big thank you to everyone who's here. I literally love all of you. This has been so much fun. I can't wait for season 2. But I won't blab too much in the outro. Just thank you for doing season 1 with me. It was a fucking ride, and I just can't wait for the rest of the journey. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye.